I think these are really nice cars. Uh, they're probably the only car that Roundhouse ever made that was really a nice car. Most of them are I'll call them train set quality. This one here is really a nice one. Um, and I got this photo off eBay just to have one that show you what they look like in standard form and what the label on the end of the box looks like. You can pick these things up at swap meets for anywhere from $5 to $12. I wouldn't pay more money than that for them. But we'll take a look here they made a lot of different varieties of these things. As you can see here, the first one is a single door car with wood doors. Then there's a wood door 50-foot car, wood door with an end door. An end door is the doors that open up for automobile loading. And then a steel door car with the end doors, steel door cars with the end doors and a placard. And I'm not sure what that part means. This is courtesy of Tim O'Connor. I know that one of these versions that the A end of the car had wouldn't have an end door, but it had a lumber door. That's that small door up by the top. So I'm not sure what the placard. I know what a placard is. That's the what people call a tack board. And there's a variety of these things. And I wrote on there at the bottom. There's that version with the A end on lumber door on the A end. This is from a Richard Hendrickson article. I don't have any of my rail model journals anymore. I sold them all about a year ago. They were a terrific magazine for prototype information. And back in the day, Richard used to write a lot of articles for them. And what he would do is he would look at the model and then look at all of the varieties of real cars, prototypes, and then say if they were accurate, close to accurate, or foobies. And he had this list that I take with me when I go to train shows. And I've never really paid much attention to this thing. And I made a terrible mistake in reading this thing. Well, I'll get to later on. But if we look at this thing, and we compare like the sides and the doors and the roof and the ends to the Roundhouse model, we can eliminate all of these guys for having the wrong roof. And then we can eliminate these guys because they have the wrong ends. They have 3-3, which means there's 3 pressings in 3 panels on the end of the car, and they're in dreadnought form. And the model has an inverted dreadnought end. So that leaves the Missouri Pacific, the Texas Pacific, and the Western Pacific. Basically, we're real specific about what we're going to use here. And so now we'll see what we can do with one of these things. This is the Texas Pacific, the way it comes decorated. And like I said, I misread that labeling. If you look here, you go across to where it says end door and it says dreadnought. So I'm thinking this car had a dreadnought end. It did not have end doors. And you'll see that right above it, there's 2 other series of cars where he has just dots. And I'm thinking, well, those must have end doors. And the series, the number I've got, 70799, doesn't. So what I did is, this is a picture of the model when it's finished. But what I did is I cut the end door off. And I had an extra body. So I cut the A end off of that and put it on the damn automobile car, thinking that it was supposed to have a regular inverse 333 dreadnought end. And then I used that end door for another project. And then this shows some of the upgrades that I made. This is pretty standard stuff. At one time, I took one of these cars. I don't know if it was this car or an AccuRail car. and I scraped the ladder stiles all off and replaced it with a plastic ladder, and you couldn't tell the difference. So I thought, I'm not going to do that anymore. So what I did on this car is I scraped off the rungs and replaced them with styrene rod. I also added supports to the running board and to the brake step. And then down the bottom, I've got Tichy straight grabs, and I bent a uncoupling bar. The underside of the car really, it comes with these three components, your basic three components, and I just added a couple of levers and some rods, just and one air pipe from the triple valve over to the brake piston. And so this is what the car looks like when I was finished with it. You can see that I patched over the capacities, and then it probably had a new date on it, and I changed the reweigh date, reweighed the thing. And then on the other side, on the right end, you can see a black square where I put the repack data in it. And that's, I think, all for this car. The picture from the other end. One thing I've been doing lately is, you'll notice the end of the car, I take a cosmetic brush that come in a set from Walmart. That's a thin angled bladed brush, and I'll flick burnt sienna, or just, yeah, I think it's raw sienna, pan pastels up the ends for a wheel splash, because the wheels from one car will splash debris up onto the car beside it. And then I also take a Prismacolor pencil and put little marks by the rungs, because if you look at real cars, they've got scuff marks there where people have put their toes against the side of the car and rubbed off either the debris or the paint. And being as I've started doing this project about 3 to 4 days ago, I started throwing all these things in a PowerPoint, and it dawned on me I had screwed up, and the car did have the right configuration for the number. So now I have to change. The reason I changed the end in the first place was to keep from changing the number, because if you redecal the number on a car, it's never going to match the other letter. So I thought it's easier to replace the end of the car than it is to try and match the lettering. Yeah. But anyway, now I've got to match the lettering, because the end of the car is wrong for the number. So anyway, I went ahead and scraped off the number that was there, went through my stack of scrap decals, and I found these numbers from an MKT set that are fairly close to the as good as I'm going to get to the font used by the T&P, and I put them on there in a number series that would be correct for a car without an end door. And then to try I thought I'd try and blend these in with the rest of the car. So here I put on some tape just to only expose the numbers. And then I realized when I took this photo that I hadn't really put any Savo set on the damn thing yet. So I had to take the tape off and then get the decals to settle down. And then I went back and sprayed some brown tinted dull coat over the numbers, and they came out pretty close. But I can see here, looking at the thing, that the stripes under the numbers have pretty much disappeared. But I think they're going to stay that way. So next up is a Mopac car. These cars had end doors, so we got to get one and they have wood side doors, wood sliding doors, but they have the auto end doors. And they also have Dahlman trucks, which are available from Tahoe Model Works. So this is the body of 89047 number 1. Now, in going back and looking at what I'd done previously to put into this presentation, I found out the car I just built, I already built one and sold it off a few years ago. This one was built in, as you can see, in the end of 21. But you can see I've added the A-line sill steps, what they call number A in their design, and I've replaced the grab irons with Tichy grab irons, but I've left the ladder alone. On the end of the car, again, Tichy grab irons. I added the retainer valve and the air line for that. And I also added some brakes, some ports for the end of the running board. And I also added probably a Tichy or Detail Associates corner grab for the longitudinal running board. This would be the auto end of the car, the auto door end. And on this particular one, I added a couple of rods for opening the doors, the latches for opening the doors. These would be real similar to what you see on the back of semi-trailers today. And the grab irons, of course. And I'll get to another one a little later on, but yeah, this is the one I did the most detail on the end door. And then I took the car. I had this AMI or AIM dyslexia works powders. So I brushed this powder all over that car. You can see behind, and really in the photo here, it doesn't look too bad, but I didn't like it. So I took it over to the sink in the basement and run it underwater and put some soap on a toothbrush and washed it off. And it came out like this, which just gives a little bit of hint of dirt around the Z bars. And I also, looks like I put some pan pastels around the doors just to give them a little character. But that's car number one. Now we'll go to car number two. I just built this car. And what's amazing is I was given this body, and the body did not have an auto end. It had the regular dreadnought ends on both ends. And I knew by talking to Charlie Duckworth, who's the MP guy, that it needed to have an auto door. So I asked online, who makes an auto door that'll fit this car? They said, Pierre Oliver, Yarmouth Models. He has the end doors. So I looked them up on his website. The end doors were $5. Being he's in Canada, it cost about $17 to get them delivered here. So I've got a free car that I've already got $25 invested in one door. The decals are available from Scale Model Works, another Canadian company. So the decals are like, I don't know, they're under $10 for the decals, but it's another $10 to have them brought here. So, and then the Tahoe Model Works trucks are probably $6, $7, and the couplers are a good $2 or $3. So I've got a shitload of money in a free car. And the only thing that I did different on this car that I didn't do on the other one was I added the door stops. I don't know, for some reason I missed them the first time, but unfortunately I saw them this time. And I also noticed that the grab irons are drop grabs instead of straights. So this car may be a little more accurate than the last one. Here's an article by Charlie on this particular car. I don't know where this came from, what magazine. I think it's a 3 or 4 page article. I've got the scans of the whole thing, but I just wanted to put this on in case somebody happened to have the magazine. They could look up this if they wanted to. So the particular car that I have, I don't know when this photo was taken, but you can see by their hats, probably early on. But you can see it has the first car I built had an Ajax power handbrake. And this particular car has what they call a stem winder, which is a vertical handbrake. And so I added the vertical handbrake to my car. And I also, you can see I've got the drop grabs, straight grabs, a couple of pieces supporting the running board, air release valve, coupler, uncut lever. And then here's a photo that shows the builder's photo, probably, because it's a new date of 29 that shows the auto end. Unfortunately, the auto ends that Pierre sells are not like the ones that were on the real car. You can see there's a flat spot at the top of this, and Pierre's have an extra pressing up there. But this is Pierre's end, and I've added a ladder. Probably, I'm guessing, being this broken, it probably was originally from a branch line kit, because the branch line spare parts, as they age, they get brittle. That's not I figured that must be where that's from. The tack border, the placard, is a spare resin part.
Hey,
well, here's pardon?
Go back to that last slide. I noticed that the roof walk support is firmly embedded into the door.
And you'll notice there's only one of them.
Well, I noticed there was only one, but I figured that was because the door locking mechanism was in the way.
That's why I didn't put it on. I thought about notching that out, but then I'd have two of them that are attached to the door. They're on hinges. They come loose when the door is open. How's that for fast thinking?
There you go.
Yeah, there's always some smart ass that notices everything, isn't there?
I am far from smart, but I am.
Well, you did good though. Yeah, I did notice that. Excellent. But anyway, I made these door stops. I think, yeah, the bottom one is a piece of 80,000 styrene angle that's cut. One side of it's cut in an angle, and then the top one to make the second half of that is a piece of 60,000 strip. So this is nutso little bitty stuff to do, but I felt it was necessary. I have friends now that have all these laser cutters, and they could probably knock this thing out in the time that it took me to make one of these. But there, all four of them were on the side of the car. They're not exactly where they are on the real car, but I'm not sure. I put them about where the door track at the top ends, and there must be a little bit of difference between the model and the real car. This shows a couple other things I did. The Tichy corner grab, pieces of Westerfield flat strip that I cut and bent for the longitudinal supports. I don't know. One thing I do that is for the corner support for the roof grab, I usually just drill a hole and stick a piece of wire up from underneath. A lot of people will put an eye bolt on that corner, and that means you have three things that you have to try and stab into three little holes. So to me, it's easier just to put the ends in, add a piece of wire in the middle, and glue it, and then cut it off when everything's dry. Now there's two bottles here. There's something both these bottles have in common. They have screw-on lids, and they have brushes that are attached to the lids. Now, if you're a dummy like me, you reach over, you grab, and you want to put on some salvo set on decals, you reach over and you grab the bottle with the red label on it instead of the blue label, unscrew it, and brush it onto the decals on the car, and realize, oh crap. But fortunately, it wasn't a total disaster. I only did it on the 8 on the number, and you can see it kind of melted the capacity information and the stripe under the 8. The 8's still noticeable. And unfortunately, there was not enough information on the decal sheet to replace this stuff. So it is what it is. So here's the car when we're going to go through the weathering process. Uh, this time I took a lot more photos than I had when I did those other cars. So what I've done here is I've sprayed the car, airbrushed it with tinted, diluted 50/50 lacquer thinner and dull coat. And I've used a black tint on the roof and the ends and the underframe, and then an off-white tint on the sides, along with a real quick shot of brown tint. Next, for the roof, I'm going to use these three different concoctions here. I've got some True Color galvanized steel and some Tamiya panel accent colors. There's a guy that used to do YouTube videos called the Milwaukee Sioux, and he made something. He had something he called taco sauce that he used to weather it. And I ran into him once up at show in St. Paul. And I asked him what was in his taco sauce, and he said it was this Tamiya panel line accent colors, and he mentioned what he had mixed together. But I haven't mixed anything together yet. They're all still separate. So what I did first is I took a rather stiff bristle brush and then wiped some of it off on a paper towel so it's like a dry brush. And I just stabbed at the roof panels with it. Then I took the black panel liner stuff and went over just give it a quick wash, trying to make sure that it stayed more towards the, crap, I gotta think of what they're called, the seam seam caps, instead of in the middle of the roof panels. And then went back with that brown and dabbed it on more in the middle of all the panels. And the next step was to take Prismacolor pencils. And you can see I used the one that's second from the back. Is kind of I don't know, a aged wood color, I'll call it. I use that on the running board. And then I use some of the other colors just to paint and just stripe a little bit on the doors and paint a little bit on the wood on the sides of the car. And of course, the one side that I use the testers for decal setting agent got a lot more pan pastel treatment in that corner. And then here's the finished car. No, it's not finished yet. Here, this shows it with, I use pan pastels. I use a dark gray, and I don't know what exactly it's called now, and then burnt umber. And I'll use a cosmetic brush, put that on the underside, and use an angled one, thin angled brush for the wheel splash on the ends. And then I also will take a triangular shaped cosmetic sponge. You get them at Walmart in a big bag for a couple of bucks, and use those to kind of blend everything together, kind of rub the whole mess to blend. It mutes down the Prismacolor pencils and pretty much everything. And then this would be the B end of the car. And then this is another one, a Western Pacific car this time. So far I've battened pretty good as far as only picking the cars that I should be picking, even if I didn't do the right configuration. But this car goes back just a year, looks like a year almost to the day after my birthday there. But anyway, this is a Western Pacific. This car comes with, I think I know what he meant by the placard now. The placard is that square on the door of the car, the right-hand door. That's where Western Pacific put their logo. And that's what the guy meant by the placard. I finally figured that out. But this has the factory lettering on it. It's in silver, and it's a 40,000 number. And there's also this is on. You can look at this on Resin Car Works blog. Pete Hall was a terrific modeler. he did work on a Milwaukee Prairie that I have, that he had an article in Model Railroader on, I think earlier last year probably. But he did an article on modeling this car. And then this is from the microscale decal set. And they show you the original numbers of the car. You had the 12,000 series that had a lumber door on the AN, and then the 13,000 series, they had the auto loading ends, and then some of these cars were renumbered into that 40,000 series. Here's a photo of the prototype car. Here's my factory painted model that I've just masked off some of the stuff that I want to keep when I go about weathering the car. And you can see that I've added probably true color black down there in the corner where they want you to stick your staple on your route cards. And I've also added, besides the grab irons, I've added some little piece straps of brass, I think, or they could be, I think they're brass and not styrene. So the doors will slide over the Z-bars. Kind of a common thing they do. So here I've gone ahead and I don't know if I've dull coated. I can't, this is a year ago, but I think this car's had a wash of black. I can see the bottle behind it. Craft paint. I'll take craft paint and squirt a little Windex in a container, dab a little craft paint and swirl it around in the Windex, and then wash it on the car. If it's too much, I add more Windex. If it's not enough, I add more paint. It's real scientific. And then here I've gone ahead and I'm going to do more stuff to this roof on this car. And you can see I've got a galvanized mix that is basically Floquil silver and gray that are mixed together in that old glue bottle. And then I've got grimy black and weathered wood true color paints. And it looks like I've used the weathered wood and the black on the running board. And then I use some of that galvanized mix. I've spotted that on the roof panels. In this picture, I've taken AK Interactive heavy chipping. It's a liquid you paint on, and after it dries, you spray over it with acrylic. And then when that dries, you wet it again, and then you can sand it or pick at it or whatever you want to do, and it'll expose whatever's underneath it. A lot of people use hairspray I think hairspray to do the same thing. And salt, people will use salt. But I have this stuff, it works good, especially on wood buildings. And then here I painted it with, it looks like I painted it with that craft paint behind it. I may have, I can't remember. And then here I've gone back and I've scraped all that off. And then I've gone over it again with another wash. You can see where I've mixed orange and browns together, and then I'll dab that on the roof as a wash. And you can see where it's held in some of the silver dots. It kind of blends, mutes the silver that I put on the roof a lot, and doesn't look too bad. And so here's that car with, again, with use of Prismacolor and pan pastels. Okay, now we're going to get to a different one. This one I just did now. This is the one I finished up that I decided to throw all this stuff in the presentation. This is done with the original numbering system, which was, and the lettering was white on the original cars. This set is from Microscale, and it's a set for just this car. I don't think they give you any extra numbers or anything. You can only do this car, I believe. They might be able to change a number, but I'm not sure. I don't remember. But here's a photo of the real car in the 13,000s.
Hmm.
And what I'm doing here is I'm going to show you changes that I did by weathering the car. The top photo is the true color paint, which is nice and shiny, and the decal. The bottom photo, I airbrushed it with that tinted thin dull coat. Again, black on the roof and the ends and underframe, and then maybe a quick shot of brown, but more of the off-white on the sides, kind of give it a faded look. Okay, the top one is after I've gone over with some Prismacolor pencils. And the bottom one is after I've hit it with pan pastels. You can see I've hit the trucks and along the underside of the car, the side sills. And this shows mostly pan pastels, the burnt umber on the underside of the car. And then this would be the car when finished and put into service. If you look at that end door, you can see that there's a flat panel at the top rather than a pressing like Pierre's are. And you'll also notice that the end supports are not on the door, and that's something. And I think I put them on there, yes, because they're from a Red Caboose or an Intermountain kit. And then this would be version number 3 of this car. This was done back in 2018. And I don't have many pictures of this car, but this is one without the end door. And I would say by looking at it that this received more pan pastels than the other guys. It also has the original factory lettering on it. I just replaced the grab irons, it looks like, the sill steps. And it looks like on this one, I actually replaced the lower door track. That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
More so than what comes on the other cars. I should go back and look. Maybe I screwed up and they should have the sliding door on the bottom. I should go look, but I'm not gonna, because the cars are done.
That's right.
And this is the end of that car with Ajax power handbrake on the end. And this one I've got drop
Bottom release.
Clark has become very still.
Hmm. Oh.
Too bad he turned his fan off, so we can't tell
Exactly.
if it's a glitch or not.
Right.
I think his internet went out.
Yeah, there he goes. Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, we'll give him a minute, see if he comes back.
Man, a great program. A lot of nice details on those cars.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have one somewhere, but it's labeled Northern Pacific. So according to his list, it's got something incorrect about it. And I think the roof might be one of the incorrect things.
Oh, yeah.
They probably put Northern Pacific on it because it had a radial roof,
mm,
not because it was especially accurate.
Mm.
You suppose Clark's still presenting and
Well, yeah,
doesn't
he
know
may
that
not
we're
even
not
know.
here?
Yeah, he doesn't know it.
That happened to Lester once.
Hmm.
We must have lost Lester. He was on here for a minute. And if his internet's out, I can't really email him.
Yeah.
But he got his phone number?
I don't think I do.
Well. Hmm.
So it looks like you could haul lumber or auto parts or automobiles in those cars.
Right.
So I've got a couple of them that I haven't done anything with, and looks to me like lumber loads off the Western Pacific would be a good solution
Right.
for their use.
Right.
Somewhere in my junk, I've got a picture of a fire truck being loaded up in Racine into one of those indoor cars. It
Uh-huh.
just fits inside that car.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know
I
what
guess
happened.
that's the way they used to ship all of them.
There's
Uh,
Clark.
Oh, Clark's back.
Yeah, I don't know. My computer froze up. I had to shut it off and start over again. Let's see. I
Yeah.
think that was the last slide anyway. We'll
Yeah,
take a
you were
quick.
talking about the drop grab irons, I think.
Yeah, there should be. If I can. Wait a minute. What the heck is that? Go away. Oh, it's just a minute. I've got to find the presentation again. If I can type, I'd get it done. Okay. Is that coming up or not?
You got to share your screen again.
Okay, good. All right. Yes, I got to do that. That's what I thought. All right. There it is. Okay. I don't know what the heck happened. I thought being as I'm not plugged in that the battery may have went down on me, but that's not the case. Let me go to where I was. Let me go back out of this and go down and see. Yeah, that was the end. This was the last slide.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we didn't miss anything at all, really. Yeah, that's the end of the program. So if there's any questions, I can probably not answer them, but
I have several questions.
okay.
How do you make your grass?
Oh, the grass.
Yeah.
That's easy. That's easy. That's Silfor, sold by Scenic Express.
Okay.
And I use I think the Grassmaster 2, I think was the applicator, but I don't think they're available anymore. But
Okay.
most applicators will work. But the Silflor grass is by far the very best.
Mhm.
And this,
Okay,
what you're
good.
looking at here is late summer. I don't know if I got any pictures. Maybe this one here might be a little better.
Mm.
Make it big. Yeah, this is a mixture of between the rails here is 2000s, and that's probably Knox because it's European grass. I'll call it European because it has all this brown and kind of rust colored mixed in with it that you only see around here very seldom in the fall. And the other stuff, this is the Silflor. This is probably 2 and 4 millimeter, maybe even a 6 millimeter mixed in there. And that's called late summer because summer is too green and late summer is I think I learned that from Jason Clockey, who I think is probably one of the better scenery guys around. And he was the one that bought that grass first. And it is really good grass. It stands up very well. But the trick is the way you apply it. Like this would have been done with where I'm running my cursor back and forth. That all of this stuff would have been done with white glue brushed on, and then I would have went back and just but I would have only done this section and then put the taller grass in there. This in between the ties and stuff, that would have been done probably before I did this. And back here, you can see around the track is more of that 2mm stuff. And then this would be what ballast there is and the open spots here. That's a mixture. This is real dirt that I collected out in the yard. And then I've screened it, not sifted it. I've used actual screening material to get it fine enough. And then I've used commercial cinders also. What's interesting about this track, while we're looking at this picture, is when in a year from now, well, a year from next January, Tony Custer's coming out with a book on branch lines, and there's a chapter on this layout in it, and it explains the track and explains how it was built. But this track, this part of the railroad, this section of the railroad was built first. And at that time, Microengineering's Code 55 track was not available. But I was up in Scale Model Supply in the Twin Cities, and they had a bundle of dual gauge track, Code 55 HO. So I bought that bundle of track. And then a year or two before, Mont Switzer had given me a box of Central Valley tie strips. And he gave me, I think, a box of what they call branch line and a box of main line. The main line ones, I think the length of the ties is different and the spacing of the ties is different. But this would be the branch line stuff. So what I did is I took that third rail that was on that track, took it off, and then filed that out down as best I could. And then I used those tie strips. So this is Central Valley tie strips with the excess Code 55 rail glued on with Polybond, which you get from Walthers, and spiked in a few places.
Yeah.
So that's the track. And it looks really good. I do like it. It's just
does.
I much prefer just laying the stuff down. I hate track laying, so not one of my favorite things. But yeah, I don't, this is another same place, just a car length or two further down the line to the right of the other photo. I don't know. We'll look here. And yeah, and next question, I guess.
Oh, I was faking. That's all I had.
Oh, okay. I
I
think
wanted to scare you.
Clark, I think I saw a turnout in there. What about the turnout on the Code 55?
those are fast tracks that I had. I hired two different guys to make them.
Okay.
And one guy was reasonable, and the other guy was extremely reasonable. And yeah, I don't know if I've got I don't have any track pictures in here, unless something just happens to show up. Well, this is there's a turnout. This guy's sitting on a turnout.
Right.
Yeah, and then this guy that built these, besides you can get ties from fast tracks that are made they're laser cut, and you take them out a bigger piece, and then their spacings for where their PC board ties go across. And that's the way the guy that was reasonably priced had his ties. This guy that was extremely reasonable price, he had real ties that he put underneath the thing. So his came all ready to lay down with the ties on them. So I really, if I ever were to buy any more, the only problem I've ever had with them is because the rail is so small that the points will break off from time to time from the throw bar, and then you've got to solder them back on. But other than that, I've only had one turnout I have trouble with, and I think I finally have solved out what's wrong with that one. I'll find out next Wednesday when we run the railroad. But that's kind of, when you're in an operating session and one of these point rails breaks off, it pretty
Oh, boy.
much screws what you're doing. You just
A
can't
lot.
use that. It'd be like the real railroad, you're done for. You
Yeah.
can't go anymore.
Looks really good though.
I don't know if there's anything else here. What's this one? This is further to the, when the other one, this car was sitting on the turnout, it was about 2 car lengths or car length more to the left. Now it's on it's spotted at there's a ramp behind it.
Mm.
And so it's sitting there as if they were unloading something. Well, usually when I build a car, this would be when it was finished. The one I just did, I will set it at the far end of the railroad, and then we'll see if it'll make it back to staging again without derailing. And then I'll uncouple it. That's the maiden voyage, is from the end of the line back to go, And it turned out that I think I had to put some spacers under the trucks, that the couplers were low. Even though I've got a coupler gauges on a piece of track, but they're old. They must be back in probably from the early 70s. And one of them fell apart and I had to replace the coupler. And then I use the smaller couplers now, and those are the old larger couplers. So I really need to buy a couple of new ones to make sure that the coupler heights are all correct or close. And I don't know if that's, well, here's another picture. This is further to the left than the other stuff was taken. But it was a little blurry here in the beginning. But yeah, it shows, and well, this new ballast here, at one time there was a turnout in here to a turntable, and that was taken out before the time I modeled. So to make it look like there was something there, I added some ballast in that spot. Otherwise, there's no ballast to speak of. And this, I really kind of like that car that way. I should do one like that.
Yeah.
Just one. You don't want too many like that. Let's see what I did here. Ooh, close. Real close. Yeah, I'm gonna check that from now on, Yeah, this is just a little bit of here that I don't know if I can make this bigger. I think I can. We'll do this. Yeah, you can see here, just spread a little bit of glue, dab that down, and then put on probably what I do is when I vacuum this grass up, when I'm done, I've got a little one gallon shop vac that I reclaim all of it out of, and then just use it over again, because 50% of the stuff pick back up again.
A nice way to recycle.
Yeah, so I'm recycling this stuff on this portion of the railroad. It's all recycled, but then I'll go over this again with hairspray and then add ground foam to it to give it a foliage look, a little leafy material. I don't know if there's any. Yeah, this one, there's not much leafy stuff there. I didn't do that a lot in the beginning, but here you can see 2 millimeter knocks along the edge, and then the 4 millimeter and 6 millimeter sill floor, and then more of the knocks 2 millimeter back behind, closer to the track. It goes real fast. It's not like it's the weathering this, you can do this whole area in a couple of minutes. It doesn't take long. But here you can see where I've gone over with hairspray and added ground foam to it to give a little different appearance. Because once you put the static grass down, you think, boy, that looks really good. But then after a while, you look at it and say, well, it's all the same. One of the worst things you can do with scenery is have it all the same. You don't want a basic color. You want things to be muted, blended in. And that's all I've got there. This car is, in this photo, is nicely bleached out, even though it's got the wrong friggin' number on it. Well, it had the right number. I screwed it up with the wrong end on it. But anyway, that's the end of that.
Very good,
Well,
Clark. Well, thank you very
Fine.
much for presenting.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I haven't put it together yet. But last winter, I built a bunch of buildings for a guy. And I don't know if you'd be interested in looking at putting together styrene buildings, scratch building.
Sure.
If that's of interest to everybody, I could put something together from what I did a couple of oil dealers and a great big Walther's kit and a lumberyard and something else. I can't remember. But I can throw a bunch of that in a PowerPoint if anybody's interested.
Absolutely. That sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, in a couple of weeks. One thing I didn't do here that I noticed, as you can see, the car number is on that door, and I scraped that off when I changed the number of the car.
Yeah.
And I did do that. But anyway, I gotta stop sharing here.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks again, Clark.
Paul.
And we do not have a presenter yet for next week. So if anybody's interested, just let me know. We have Bob on today. Bob, how do you pronounce your last name?
He's muted.
Last name is pronounced Wondrock.
Wonderock. Okay, very good. Well, Bob is going to present for us on the 8th of May. And so we look forward to that. And so, yeah, if you're interested, let me know. We're coming up on the 29th of May. It will be our 5-year anniversary of doing this.
Oh,
We started on May
wow.
29th, 2020 during the pandemic. And so it's been fun, and we'll keep going as long as we can until my Zoom subscription runs out, I guess. So anyway, thanks everybody for coming. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.